messing around.
Okay, roomies, we are calling a loft meeting. Today we are joined by the genius, my dear friend, the man who helped change my entire life, and the one who helped put the cast of New Girl together, Mr. Seth Yanklewitz. Please welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? What's
I'm
happening?
Good. You look good.
Thank you. I should have shaved for you. I'm embarrassed now.
No, I
should have
like
gotten
it.
Cleaned up.
I like this scruff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.
Well, hello. It's been a while since we've seen each other face to face.
I know, but I think about you all the time.
And I talk about you all the time. So
I know. So we were
ya.
just texting before we dive into all the New Girl story and how this cast came together and everything. You told me that the other day, that you share a story about me with other people. So what's the story?
So every time I teach like young actors or graduating classes of colleges, or if I give a talk at like the SAG Foundation, you know, a major question that everyone talks about is like, how do you remember actors? Or when actors come in, like, do you remember them? And I always say our story, which is, you know, Jewel, my old casting partner, Jewel Bestrop, and I were doing a pilot for 20th for NBC called Nevermind Nirvana, which was the third time the show was trying to get made. And I think you were represented by Gersh at the time.
I was.
Yeah, okay. And we auditioned you, and instantaneously I was like, holy cow, I'm obsessed. And as I fall in love with actors, you were one. And we tested you for the show in like the old testing where it was like 5 people sitting in a lobby, signing their contracts, staring at each other.
Yep.
With like a lot of dialogue to do in a room over and over and over. And unfortunately, it didn't go your way. But 2 years later, I got a pilot called New Girl. And there was a character by the name of Cece, which was written as a high fashion supermodel. And like, you know, high fashion.
Sure, yeah.
And I auditioned like a bunch of girls that were considered high fashion. And the truth is, nobody could do the part. Nobody. And it was only like, it wasn't like a huge amount of girls because it's not like we could pull so many in. And, you know, I auditioned a bunch of the Victoria's Secret models because at that point they had like the biggest audiences.
I know. Can I just interject? Because it was really funny is that, you know, I was down in Chile shooting this YouTube Red show with Bryan Singer called H Plus with a little known actress called Katrina Balfe, who was a Victoria's Secrets model. And we both were down there. And she was like, because I was like, oh my gosh, I just auditioned for this show. Oh, it would be so perfect. I love it so much. I connect to it so much. And she had just auditioned for it. Katrina did. Yeah. And I was like, well, you're obviously getting it. You're like a real life supermodel girl. I was like, oh, it's all over for me. So yeah, she was one of the people, one of the supermodels that went up for it. That's crazy.
Yeah. So as the auditioning went, like, and as the cast came together slowly, I realized like none of those girls would have been able to stand up comedically to what we were building. And I remembered, I was like, oh my God, there's this girl. And in my brain, it goes like, oh my God, there was this actress during this pilot I was doing. I have to find her. She's Canadian. Like I had to like get all the pieces together. And I called Gersh, and again, they were like, oh, she's like in another country filming. And I was like, what do we do? And I was like, I'm moving fast. And as that was happening, I was talking to like Liz Merriweather and Catherine Pope and Dave. And I was like, guys, is there any way we could make this character like a commercial model, like someone a little more attainable rather than like, high fashion? I was like, because if so, I have like the most amazing girl. I'm telling you, she's going to get the job. And they were like, yes, of course. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we'll do whatever because we need to find her. And I guess you did a self-tape, right? Which I thought was amazing. And I was like, we need to test her. And they were like, she's literally flying in on this day. Like, she will not be. And like, if I remember, you like flew in and came right to the studio or something close to that. I flew in, went
straight from LAX to Fox into that weird little building that looks like a Swiss chalet.
Yeah, yeah. That was my office.
In the bathroom, I was trying to get the sand out of my hair because the last scene I shot, I was, like it's supposed to be set in India. We were in the deserts in Chile, and Katrina Balfe is driving away with my baby. And I'm screaming and crying. And I literally went from that set. They raced me to catch the flight. So like my eyes are puffy, like from all this crying. I've got sand in my hair. I think it was like an asari. And so I literally just ran straight in to the bathroom to change. And I remember feeling a little starstruck because standing in the bathroom was Christina Milian. Who's so beautiful.
Right.
So beautiful. And I was like,
she tested. That's right.
God. Oh no. And then I was like, but it was with Zoe and Liz and Catherine. And I was like, this feels crazy. And so I came in the room and I remember sitting down and trying to take everything in. And we did a little bit of small talk while they were getting things set up. And I remember I made Zoe laugh.
Yeah.
I just remember that moment of like her genuinely, and we just became instant friends because we just got each other in this moment, and we were so opposite, but we got each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember that.
And it was, I think, like pretty much yours from that moment on. We just had to like go through the paces. But I always tell the story, like, obviously we remember actors. Like, we don't just bring you in one time. And so, that's my Hannah, like, is proof to you actors that we remember you no matter what, and we do want you to get jobs. So yeah, you are often used in my storytelling. Sure.
I will put an asterisk on that though. I think great casting directors do that, and you to me are just that example, because I tell that story all the time. Because I went in for that pilot season, and it was for Outsourced, and it was for Nevermind Nirvana. And word kind of spread, right? They were like, there's this new girl.
Yeah.
Because there was all these like Indian specific roles.
Totally.
But New Girl was not an Indian specific role. And the fact that you remembered me and didn't just think of me as just like she's the Indian actress that's new and young, but just as like she's a good actress.
Yeah.
And brought me in for it. I tell that story all the time. And I'm like, Seth remembered and he saw my potential. He just didn't see who I was on the surface. He could see me in this mainstream American cast. Right? And could see that they could make it fit and work and not be about my ethnicity, not be about that. It was just like funny. And it changed my life. And because of that, and this is why I always say representation truly does matter.
Yeah.
Like Liz doing that and trusting you and kind of kicking that door open has had a real domino effect on who we see on our TV screens
100%.
now. It was
100%.
powerful.
I mean, Liz and Catherine and Jake and Brett and Dave, like they really, the same thing happened with the coach role. The coach role in the pilot was originally written as a heavyset Jewish guy.
No way.
Yeah. And I said to them,
know that.
Oh yeah. And I said to them, like, guys, if we want to get on the air, this is Fox. We need diversity in this cast. And they were like, well, which role do you think? And I was like, to me, it makes the most sense for coach to be diverse. And they all thought about it. And obviously, like, it wasn't just me. Like, they had to come up with it and figure out how to write to it. And so they were like, okay, start seeing diversity. And the funny thing is, when people came in, all of the diverse guys, they were like reading the part as like a heavyset Jewish guy. And so like it wasn't working at all. And I kept going like, why are these funny people not funny? Like, why is this not working? And I went to Liz and I was like, could you just like rewrite the like character description for me so like they don't think it's like a chubby Jewish guy or a heavyset Jewish guy? And then and I brought people back and so that's how then I got to Lamorne basically because the funny thing about Lamorne was I was watching TV and he was in a string of Vegas tourism commercials playing a limo driver who he would play like himself And then he would play like the person in the back of the limo, but he was really the driver. It was so weird. And I was like, who is this guy? And I like hunted him down. And he was with Naomi Odenkirk. And she was like, yeah, he's like, we just started representing him or something. And I was like, I need him to come in and audition for this new show for me. He's amazing. And that's how that's how I got to Lamorne.
This is also one of your superpowers. Like, I feel like you're always looking. I feel like you're always looking. You can spot the potential. And here's the other thing too. I always tell about the story about how I got the Cece character is that you tell the truth, right? You don't sugarcoat things. You actually tell the truth. Because when I did that test, that chemistry read with Zoe right off the plane, and then I was coming in to do studio and network, which you're in a room full of people. I'd also just like never really done that, so it was very overwhelming. I remember getting a call from my agent. It was like, Seth just called. Yeah, you're going in. He's asking, can you please just like brush your hair and put on like a dress? Can you look cuter? Can you figure it out? And it was. Thank goodness. Because I think a lot of people are just kind of be like, well, let's see what she does. And it's like, no, you need guidance. You need information. We're actors. We need direction. And you gave that gift. It's very different from any other experience I've ever had. And I always somehow just manage to like follow the map back to you.
Well, you know, Look, I've been lucky enough where I've worked as an independent casting director and a studio exec or a network exec. And so I'm on both sides of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And look, it is my job and it is our job to get you guys jobs. I only want to get actors jobs. So why not help to the best of my ability to get an actor a job? And if it means like saying gently, brush your hair, wear a dress. But the other thing was, you know, again, you had just come off a plane and Cece was meant to be a model. And so like we had to zhuzh her up, right?
But it was also like, I was so fresh into that studio network world. Yeah. I didn't know. And you really gave this opportunity to a lot of us and have continued to do so that don't have that experience, that don't know kind of how you're supposed to show up or what, you know, what the rules kind of are, the unwritten rules. And you're so helpful though, in making sure that I always say it's kind of like, as an actor, you know what you want to do, right? Hopefully you have that sense within yourself. That's what makes a great actor. I was like, but then you're put in these situations, even like with Zoom auditions now, where it's so alien and strange. It's like someone saying, you know, that thing you do really, really well. We can see the potential in you. You've never juggled before, right? Cool. Can you do that while you're juggling? Yeah. And you go like, well, what if I'm a bad juggler? And now I don't get a job because I juggle badly. Right. And that's where I'm like, that's the gift. You go like, let me pull you aside and I'm going to teach you how to juggle. Real quick. So they can see that what a great act, what I see. Yeah. Anyway, you're just one of the best. I have such a special place in my heart for you. You know that because I tell you that. Love I'm like, you truly did something not only just for me, but you did it for the community and you continue to do it. We'll get to Deli Boys in a minute, but totally. Let's talk about finding, because everybody asks me that, how did they find Max? How did they find Jake?
So Jake had done Liz Merriweather's movie that had just come out, but no one really knew who he was. And so he came in and auditioned, you know, and then quickly we were like, oh my God, he's amazing. I think we put him right to a chem read with Zoe. I don't think like I pre-read him, if I recall. And if I did pre-read him, it was just because we had never met him. And but I think he went right to like a chem read with Zoe. And then we immediately tested him. So Jake was number 2 to be cast. And then Max is a different story. Like I had known Max really, I mean, obviously I saw him on Ugly Betty. I knew who his wife was at the time. She was in casting as well. But I used to see Max like around town and he was such an amazing person and so like energetic and positive and funny. And I had never really auditioned him. I don't know why, but I had this like spidey sense that like he could have this character in him. And, you know, Liz and Dave and Brett were, they were very tough just because they, more than most writers or showrunners, were very knowledgeable of comedic actors. And Liz was very knowledgeable of all the UCB people, you know, and so they were very, not hard on me, but like they basically pre-approved my producer sessions. And Jake hasn't too. And I slipped Max into the third producer session because they just didn't know who he was. It wasn't that they didn't want him. They just didn't know him. And so I like literally slipped him in it, like secret. And he came in and his first, like one of like the best first auditions ever.
I just got goosebumps.
I know. And Jake Kasdan was in New York, so he wasn't in the session. So we had to send tapes to Jake to watch overnight. And I think we got like, Liz got a voicemail, if I'm correct, or Catherine, which they played the next day at the top of our session, where Jake was like, whoever this Max kid is, like, is unbelievable. Like, Jake immediately, and Liz too, and Brett and Dave, like, they were all on board, but like Jake left a message to somebody, I can't remember who, saying like, holy crap, that guy. And that's how the Max thing started. And
Get out.
Yeah, and you know, people maybe they do know now, but like back then, his wife worked at Fox, and she removed herself from the covering the job because she was my exec at the network. But she took herself off the project because once I said we wanted to test him, the network took her off. And she covered it from afar, but really she didn't cover it much anymore until after he got the job from 20th. But we kept it very secret because we didn't want anyone's sort of feelings to be, you know, changed or what have you. So it was all done like super kosher between 20th casting and me. And that's sort of like, you know, look, did I know Max had the full Schmidt in him that he created? Maybe not, but I had a spidey sense that he had something different than what was on paper. I mean, Schmidt on paper was way, like, for lack of a better word, douchier than he eventually played it. Max played it with such a heart, you know, that like, and I think that's why he became such a fan fave, because had he just been like, you know, a polo collar up wearing like khaki guy, the character wouldn't have been so beloved, but he just brought such I mean, it was all him. It was all him. He did that, say, you know.
Like, I feel like with Max, because like I think about the chemistry with Max and I go, I think so much of it came from just his kindness that you talk about that everybody knows. Because Max, I guess, had auditioned for like 7 pilots or something at that point. He had really tried many times, where for me, this was kind of like my first real big kick at the can.
Yeah.
And so showing up on set to shoot the pilot, I mean, I was doing everything for the first time.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to have this kind of dynamic. And he was so kind and helpful. And he knew that no matter what choice I was going to make in the scene, he was just going to yes it and elevate it.
Yeah.
And which came across as this like chemistry. But it was really him just being an incredible friend and caretaking someone that was like brand new and he was heavily seasoned.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was always that I had so much trust in him. And no matter what scene we did, that heart is Max's heart.
Yeah.
He's not going to let you fail. He's not going to let the scene fail. He's always going to make it funny. He just had that naturally in him as a person. And it came across. And because I did need that hand holding in the beginning, because I was trying to juggle.
Of course.
While act. And he just took away the juggling. He's like, what if I do all the juggling?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll help you with all this stuff so you don't have to think about it. Just do what you do. And he was so loving as a friend, and I've never forgotten that either.
Yeah.
He was so kind until I got my feet on the ground. And we talk about that a lot. Lamorne and I talk about like the kindness of the other actors, because a lot of us were brand new.
Yeah. Look, I mean, you guys were thrown into a solid group. Yeah. Like, it was a solid, working, knowledgeable, comedic family. And, you know, and again, I say Liz, Brett, and Dave were so powerful in terms of their knowledge of actors and comedy and script. And so like, it was a high bar. It was a high bar. I just remembered as we were talking, Max and Jake were supposed to test for a Sony show. And like that test was on a Thursday. No, that test was on a Wednesday.
This is the same pilot season.
Same pilot season.
Right.
It was a Sony show, and that test was either on like a Wednesday or a Thursday. My test was either on like a Thursday or Friday. Like my test was the next day. And had they closed that test deal, I would have been in second position. So I called my casting partner, Jewel, and I'm like, if I move my test up and we close first, do I then get to own them in first position? She's like, yeah. So I called Liz Paulson at 20th and I was like, we have to move our test. And we moved our test so that I
could. Out.
Yeah.
I
just
remember that. I feel
story.
like I feel like the industry's changed. It's not really like that anymore.
It's not.
But I remember it was so quick. It was so quick. You had so many pilots. You were going up for all these pilots. Yeah. And then, whoever gotcha.
Yeah. And that's how I did.
Wow, the strategy.
Yeah. That was the first time I was like, ooh, I'm conniving. Like, I was like, ooh, where did that come from? Because I'm usually though. I know, totally. Like, could you imagine if they weren't a Vail? I mean, you know, that we all know, like, we'll tell the story of Lamorne and why he wasn't coach in the end. But like, sure. You know, it was just like, yeah, it would have been a whole different show.
So fascinating. I have to get into it because so many people have asked us about the guest stars we had on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, are some of the most powerful actors, musicians, celebrities in the world. Yeah. And everybody's like, why did they want to be on New Girl? What was like for them to want to be on the show? So how was it incoming calls? Did you guys chase Parker Posey? How did that work to get so many of those incredible people on our show?
So first I'll say, after the pilot, I became an executive at Fox on the network side. So I then didn't cast the series. Anya Koloff and Michael Nicolo came in to cast the series, but I oversaw the show as the network exec. So I obviously had such like ownership over the show. Sure. And, so we got a lot of incoming calls, Yeah, totally. I mean, certainly in the second half of the first season when everyone saw because everybody waits to see like, what is the show going to do? What's it going to be like? And I think that show got immediate critical acclaim. Like it did, right? So I think right away people wanted to be on it. And it grew and it never didn't grow. And then, look, Zoe was an indie film queen. Like she came with mad cred, like a lot of cred.
How did you get Zoe? Let's start there.
So we got hired for the job, and we did a list. 20th asked us to do a list for the lead, and we came up with a list and we all agreed on Zoe, and Sharon Klein did Sharon Klein and went and got her. Like, she got to the manager and sent the script, and the manager fell in love and gave it to Zoe. And it was 1 week. We delivered a list like on a Monday, and Zoe attached like literally by the end of the week. Zoe was attached, like they were making the deal. It happened very fast.
Wow.
But Sharon Klein and Liz Paulson, but Sharon went and got Zoe for us. Yeah.
I remember when I got the Chicks and Dicks script and read
that's
it.
Right. That's
right. The only person attached was Zoe. And I just remember it was such a weird feeling in my body because I was like, how? Because it wasn't, at that time, it wasn't like film stars. Especially ones that were so cool and respected and authentically individual. We're doing television. They just weren't. No. It was a really shocking moment where like this show is going to be, it's a given. It's going to be huge. It was so special and different.
The first day Zoe read with an actor, we all, like all the producers, all the studio, when we watched the tape, we were like, oh my God, she's amazing. Like, because we just offered it to her, like, right? But to then hear the words aloud, you're like, oh my God, this is these are her words. This is written out of her soul. Do you know what I mean? And so that's when everyone, like, we literally were cheering almost like at the tape.
I can imagine, because if you do these offers, it's like, it was a very big offer only world. Like if you were doing these offers, even if it's like the greatest actress, I'm sure you do hold your breath a little bit until you get to see what they do with the role. And Zoe is Jess. Jess is Zoe. I mean, I always just felt she was talking, and that's just how great she is as an actor, but also how perfectly cast she was. Okay, we're going to pause this conversation with the incredible Seth, the guiding light of this cast of New Girl and the man behind so many wonderful ensembles that you know and love on your TV. And pick it up next week for part 2. That was The Mess Around, an iHeartMedia production.
Our executive producer is Joelle Monique. Our senior producer is Abu Zafar. Bei Wang provided engineering and editing services.
Additional production from Daniel Goodman, Wendy Heisler, and Kyle Chevron. Our theme song was written and composed by Ronald Jukebox Jackson.
Catch you next time.
Bye.